Welcome to the lesson on plant reproduction. In this lesson, we will be discussing flower structures and their functions, including labeling the parts of a flower. We'll talk about various pollination strategies used by some pretty unique flowers. We'll talk about the three types of fruits, and we'll also talk about seed dormancy and what breaks dormancy, along with seed dispersal and different types of seeds and how they disperse themselves. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with flower structures. And we'll start with petals, which are function to attract pollinators. Remember that this can be done, flowers can attract pollinators by three different ways. One is the color of their petals, another one is the shape of the flower, and the third, the scent that the flower gives off. More to come on that. Some flowers also have sepals, not all, but most. Sepals protect the flower bud. And then we get into the reproductive organs of the flower. The stamen, which is the male part of the flower, consists of the anther at the top of the stamen, which produces pollen, which houses, of course, the male gametophytes. The male gametes. And also the filament, which is the thin structure that holds the anther up in the air. So together, the filament and the anther make up the stamen. The pistil is the female part of the flower, and it is made up of, from top to bottom, the stigma, which is sticky and functions as a pollen trap. So a good way to remember this is sticky stigma. The style, which is the slender stalk that holds up the stigma into the air. And the base of the pistil is called the ovary. And it contains the ovules, which holds the eggs, which when fertilized will become seeds. All right, let's take a look at the parts of a flower diagram. There are some that are going to be already labeled here and some that you should add to this diagram. And we start, of course, here with our petals. Down below here, as we mentioned earlier, these are the sepals which formerly protected the flower bud. This structure altogether is called the stamen, of which the top part here is called the anther. You should also add this stalk as the filament. Add that to your drawing as well. Draw a line to it and label it as filament somewhere in here in this diagram, or you can do it on the other side. Here we have the pistil, and the pistil is all of this structure all together. And starting at the top here, we have the stigma, which is the sticky part the pollen sticks to. We have the slender stalk here called the style, not labeled in this diagram, but you should add a line over here and label it as the style. And down here we have the ovary, which contains the ovule right here, which has the eggs in it. Okay, so the structures and functions of the flower. Next, let's talk about pollination strategies, which target specific pollinators and various types of flowers and their strategies. We have the salvia, which is the stamen strikes the bee when it pushes into the flower. So it actually strikes down on the bee and gives the bee its pollen. So a pretty unique pollination strategy by that plant. The tropical water lily is pretty interesting. It opens on 2 successive days. On the first day, bees can reach the stamens but not the pistil. On the second day, the stamens are underwater, and in trying to reach the pistil, the bees drown and the pollen falls off on their bodies and pollinates the flower. So pretty interesting pollination strategy for the tropical water lily. How about the wasp orchid? The wasp orchid flower mimics in shape and pheromones female wasps. Males try to mate with the flower, and in doing so pollinates the flower. We also have the Stapelia, which smells like rotten meat and is pollinated by flies. And then there's the bucket orchid. The bees get trapped in the nectar in the bucket part down here, which would be this, and the stamen gets glued onto the bee's back and gets carried off. Then, of course, as it travels to another bucket orchid, it would end up pollinating in a cross-pollination situation. So some neat pollination strategies there. After pollination, the ovary becomes a fruit, and there are three types that you need to know. There are the simple fruits, which come from one flower and one ovary. Examples are apples, beans, cherries, and tomatoes. There's the aggregate fruit, which comes from one flower that has many ovaries. Great example here shown in the strawberry flower. Examples are strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, etc. So one flower that contains many ovaries, and so you get all these different seeds produced in that particular fruit. And then the last one, the third, is the multiple. Multiple has many flowers and many ovaries, forms together into a single fruit. An example of this would be the pineapple. Take a look at this. This is the flower of the pineapple, and you can see each of these is a single flower. So together you've got many flowers and many ovaries, and they form together into a single larger fruit like the pineapple. And another good example is the one over here where with the black mulberry. Okay, good indication, by the way, is these little spines sticking out. You can see that on the pineapple and on the black mulberry here. All right, let's continue on to seed dormancy. Seed dormancy assures that seeds sprout at the right time and under the right conditions. Factors that break dormancy are water, rain or flooding, cold temperatures that are followed by a warm-up, like in the springtime. Some plants are adapted to have their dormancy broken by fire and in wildfires. And other seeds are adapted to have their dormancy broken by passing through an animal's digestive tract, where the stomach acid dissolves the seed coat. Plants have also adapted various ways to disperse themselves, and these methods lower competition by being able to spread into larger geographic areas. Some examples are seeds that use wings or parachutes. Examples include maple, ash, milkweed, or the dandelion. Some seeds are dispersed by being consumed by animals, apples, blackberries, cherries, for example, and then excreted in the animal's feces, of course. Some seeds are dispersed by water, like walnuts, willow, and the cottonwood. Other seeds use burrs or hooks to disperse by catching on to animals that carry them away and drop the seeds in another location by picking them off. Examples are burdock, which we're very familiar with, burr marigold, and bedstraw. Other seeds have exploding seed pods, like the touch-me-not, witch hazel, bunya bunya, and the kigelia tree, also called the sausage tree. A few examples here in addition to the ones you just saw. All right, let's take a look at another video that's going to talk more in depth about the process of plant reproduction.